I was talking with some friends about screen printed records, and there's a lot of elements when it comes to vinyl releases that can be screen printed, the most obvious of which would be the cover itself. This is Nick Zammuto's first solo record, and he decided to do a version with a screen printed cover, which is pretty cool, and a very cool colored vinyl too. Maybe I'll show you details of all these things so you can see the vinyl for some of them. This one, Casper and the Cookies, this is People in a Position to Know release. Nice screen printed cover. I can't seem to make a video without mentioning Califone, so here's Califone. Roots and Crowns, this is a special edition of this record that was actually available in two different screened covers. This is the one that I picked up. Actually, I had both of them at one point. I think I sold the other one. And then I also have Califone's Room Sound. This was actually available on CD for over a decade. Never was released on vinyl until relatively recently. And when they issued it on vinyl, they wanted that nice silver ink like they had on the cover of the CD. So that had to be screen printed. This is a release by Tosca on a nice textured cover. In order to get that bright image on here, the graphic version, they kind of needed to screen print that onto that dark textured cover. I'll show details of that. Hopefully you can see that pretty well in the details, because it's probably pretty hard to see in the video. So this one by the Melvins, which is screen printed, both sides, with kind of a cool colored vinyl. These little spots in the middle. Very cool. I actually have it signed by him. I saw him in concert, and the records are kind of expensive, so I don't buy a lot of them, but cool to see him and cool to get it signed. So that's one type of screen printing where they just do that on the cover. Another type, and I'm not going to take all of these out, I'll show details of these, but Sacred Bones loves to do limited edition versions of their records. So this is one from the Man, New Moon, where it's just basically a wrapper around the actual album, Psychic Ills. This is Marissa Nadler. You can't even tell from this, and there's these little stamps on the back, kind of like wax seals. Zola Jesus. All right, so I'll take a couple of these out of the protective sleeves, because I guess that's kind of annoying seeing the light reflecting off them. But this is another Sacred Bones release by the Men. And the idea is that these, they're essentially just wrappers, but you can slide the record out of the top or the bottom. This is the Men, Open Your Heart. This one actually popped loose. I don't like to actually pop these. I prefer to slide them out. But since it did pop loose, I'll go ahead and show it to you. So this becomes the screen printed cover. It's got the wax seal, which is actually plastic, but it's supposed to look like a wax seal with the little Sacred Bones logo, and they're all hand numbered. So this is only 194 out of 250. So this one's not a great number, but the sleeve becomes kind of this original artwork that's around the record, and I like original art, so the screen printed covers are kind of nifty to me. But this is another one by the Men. This is actually songs that were recorded during the New Moon sessions. This is an acoustic. Let's pull it out a little bit so you can see it. Acoustic versions recorded outdoors during the New Moon sessions. But again, it's got the wax seal, plastic. This one's actually on wood, so it's a really nice, strong cover for it. But I just, like I said, I like original art and all of those kind of things, so I buy them. And I like Sacred Bones. This Moon Gangs also showed up with a screen printed cover, but it's the vinyl itself which I kind of wanted to talk about, because the vinyl sometimes will only have enough music for one side. I know some people get upset, they'd rather see the music spread out over the two sides, but if it's not that much music and it's an EP, why not go ahead and put it on one side and then include a screen print on the other side? So a lot of bands have done this. I have so many of these that I could go on forever, so I might have to make this a two-parter. This is going to be too hard to take all of these in and out. This is going to slow me down, so I'm probably just going to leave most of them in the sleeve. Some of them have foil stamps on them. I mentioned Moth Super Rainbow in an earlier video. This actually has foil stamping on two sides, so it's a single album that was split into two records, and one side has music, so side A has music, side B is a foil stamp, side C has music, and side D is a foil stamp. This Boris release, Vein, is interesting because it's only got screen printing right around the edge of the vinyl. So the music's in the middle, could have been a 10-inch record. They did it as a 12-inch and put the screen printing around the outside. Very heavy band, and that record in particular is very noisy and heavy, so they're probably not for everybody. Child Bite, Dope Body, this is a split EP. This one's kind of interesting because from one side it's screen printed and you see one image on it, but it was screen printed under the clear vinyl with a different image, so you actually see a screen print on both sides, hand numbered 56 out of 135. Actually, I have a couple different colors. One's yellowish, one's reddish. This one's interesting from City Center. Again, one-sided vinyl, so one side has the music, the other side doesn't. And this one is actually printed also, so it shows through on the side that actually has the music. But it's just a little section of screen printing rather than the whole record. Dead Skeletons have actually done this several times. So this is one, or this is one, Dead Comet. And I'll show details of both of these, but once again, music on one side, and then the B side would be a dead silk screen, is what they call it. So Dead Skeletons with dead wax on one side. And this one, the Je Ne Sais Quoi, is, it looked like it was going to be glow in the dark, but it's not. It's screen printed on one side again, so it shows through correctly on the side that has the music. This is a very poppy, dancey, electronica type bands. This isn't something that I would typically listen to, but the vinyl caught my attention, so I went ahead and picked it up. So here's another one. This is from Joyful Noise. This is number 268 out of 300. I don't know if we're going to see it very well, but if you put it on a turntable, it's actually kind of warped. I need to try to flatten these, but that's one of the issues with these screen printed ones, where they don't sit flat. The screen printing, when it dries, seems to warp the record, so that actually is a problem. But I've got one of those vinyl flats, so I'll go ahead and flatten this one. But this one is Jad Fair, which of course everybody should love. It's also got a Hi-Fi Club and KPT Michigan, but it's once again a one-sided record. Another one I showed in a very early video is this release by Medusa. Good gravy. Which the cover screen printed to get the silver, but it's a whole combination of things because the vinyl, it's got this nice little book in it too, by the way, black printing on a black paper, a translucent vinyl, smoky vinyl with a screen print on one side. Pulled out all the stops for this one. Sleater-Kinney, The Woods. You gotta love Sleater-Kinney. This is a very cool one though because it's three-sided because it's a double record, colored vinyl, and then one side, the D side, has it printed to look like a cutout of a tree. This is one that I've seen described as punk disco Vogue. Probably not quite my kind of music, but I was curious. It's on Castle Face, which I find interesting. I think Drag City also had something to do with it. But it's also kind of a purple vinyl with this print on the opposite side, on the dead wax side. This one I ran across. David Horowitz actually saw this and mentioned it, and the shipping was too much, so I wasn't going to get it. And then John Chartrand said, "Oh, I'm interested. Maybe I'll get one too." So then we split the shipping. So the shipping ended up being reasonable. This is only 7 out of 200. Whoop-Szo, I don't know how to pronounce the name of this band, but it's also, again, one of these colored vinyl things, but it's got a nice screen print on the back. A couple kind of poppy, folky type things, Academic Fight Song from Kevin Devine. These are really warped when I got them, so these also are going to have to be put in a vinyl flat, but they look very cool from the front and from the back. In fact, maybe some of these I'll go ahead and light from the back so you can kind of see, because some of them are actually a little translucent. This one's pretty opaque, but this is Jean St. Werner. Very cool. This is all from the same label. I'm not even sure how to pronounce some of these. Jefre Cantu-Ledesma, Requiem. Again, these are 10 inches. But kind of a translucent vinyl. You can't see from this side, so I'll light it up from behind. But the music on one side and the screen print on the other side. But all three of these are this kind of a electronic, pretty quiet type music. This one's only slightly translucent, but again, screen prints. Gabriel Solomon. Riots don't just happen. The screen printed one that has Faust on it, the one I showed in a glow in the dark video. I also have a bunch of these. I'm just going to skip through these pretty quick. And I think most of these are probably people in a position to know, but they're screen printed with a lathe cut on one side of this chunk of plastic. So these are actually hard plastic. This one's kind of a nice Meowton, which I think is a hilarious name for a band. Kind of this spin art, color. Nick Janda. This one, the wings. This one looks really cool up close. It's like a little doily type thing. This Frontier Needs Heroes. Kind of a cut and die cut. So a shaped vinyl, I should say. And then Mike Dixon, the guy who runs that, and lathecuts.com, did I believe it was an art residency. I wonder if this says on it, with the Henry Art Gallery, where he was actually doing lacquer recording blank things where they're actually really soft. I gotta be kind of careful with these. I'm a little nervous about them, but I got several of these. Eric Johnson, different bands on each one of these. But they're hard lacquered. The lacquer's soft. The record itself is really tough. I think it's possibly metal. This one's really interesting because it's kind of looks like it's gold because the lacquer seems to be discoloring the inside of this. I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is. It's also signed by the musicians. But again, I'm probably going to talk about people in a position to know in a whole video because I've just got so many interesting things. In fact, they just came out with an incredible 6-sided record, and I'm probably going to have to mention that in a video pretty soon here. That was a lot of screen printed stuff. I'll go ahead and stop the video. I'm already fearful that it went over 10 minutes, even with editing. So part 2 will happen another day.